On my last Five Nights at Freddy's video, some comments brought up a theory that blew my mind. Is Gregory dead? I remember reading it, and at first I was like, yeah right, we see him at the end of nearly every ending, except for the alleyway. But then I thought about it, and I did some digging, and oh man. So let's get into it. Oh, and spoilers ahead, obviously. We're talking about the ending of the game. I don't know how there couldn't be spoilers if we're talking about this. So for those of you who don't know, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is a game with 6 different endings depending on what you've done during the game, or where you exit from. Most of these endings are fairly straightforward, having Gregory either escape by himself, in a van, or with or without Vanessa. But there's one ending in particular we're going to focus on today, and that's the Afton ending. If, when prompted to leave the Pizzaplex, you choose to stay and continue to investigate, you begin the path for the Afton ending. Then Gregory goes back into the fray, destroys the other animatronic he hasn't already thus far in the plot, and with a fully decked out inventory and a fully upgraded Freddy, you go into Roxy Raceway, down the construction scaffolding, and you find an odd, barely functional elevator. Delving deeper down, you find the ruins of an old pizzeria, specifically the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator location. That has since fallen into a sinkhole. Going even further down, you enter the
maze with no prize.
The tunnels set up by Henry Emily to trap and melt down the animatronics to try and end everything. In there, you find him, the old furry murderer himself, in an even more decrepit form than last time we saw him. We ask him,
"How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?"
I love the young people.
And then we teach that old man a lesson. The blob starts randomly attacking and gets Burn Trap, who, let's be honest, didn't really seem that threatening anyway. He was kind of just shambling towards him. The building starts crumbling down, Gregory and Freddy run away, and we cut to a shot of them peacefully sitting on a hill. When the game came out, we all kind of took this narrative at face value. But what if that's not the case? What if in this ending, Gregory dies and Freddy gets crushed as well? He doesn't really die, he's a robot. Let's take another look at that ending. First off, I want to get these reasons out of the way because they're the least convincing on their own. And that's because I'm thinking logically about how they get out. As far as we're shown, there's one way in here, which is the elevator we take to go down. It explicitly gets stated it's the only way down, and that it will only work one more time. Even Freddy says once we go down, there's no going back. The game says no way back. And then, when we get into the restaurant, there are some doors we don't go in, sure, but we go deeper than that. We jump into a sinkhole in the restaurant several times to the bottom. There are no doors in this boss area. There's a bed, presumably because these tunnels are like Vanny's vacation home, but there are no exits or entrances in there. It's probable that we don't even get out of the boss arena. So if we've been told directly and by the environment multiple times that there is one way in, no way out, how the hell do they get out? They just run out. Where are they running to? Even if the elevator actually can go back up, it's surrounded by loose rubble and debris. If that elevator survives going up for 2 minutes, it'd be a miracle. Not only that, but if the building is falling apart, the electricity most likely shut off once wires started being ripped apart by rock and concrete tumbling. And if there's no electricity, that elevator isn't going anywhere. Now, I know all of that was super convincing, so you might be asking yourself, Riley, why did you say that this evidence wasn't going to be enough specifically? Why did you call it weak? Well, to be fair, the only real evidence there is that I'm using logic in a game where animatronics get haunted, come to life, and one man has been resurrected like 5 times. Logic doesn't super apply here. At this point, building code violations can sort of be thrown out the window when push comes to shove. Otherwise, this would just turn into a CinemaSins video. Actually, ventilation chutes are very fragile and wouldn't be able to hold up a small boy. While this is fine supporting evidence, I don't want the whole theory to hinge on an illogical thing that happened. A lot of illogical things do happen. So what other evidence do we have? We'll look closely at the end of the escape cutscene. We see Freddy and Gregory running in a crumbling underground tunnel. Smoke fills the space, we fade to black, and then after the credits we get this shot. On a surface level, just not even taking the franchise into account, doesn't this look like heaven? They're literally on a hill in the clouds with a warm rising sun. This is like stereotypical heaven. And we know the majority of this game was written under Scott Cawthon's supervision, who himself is very religious. There's even an allusion to an angel, although some people think it's someone holding their kids. It's not super, we don't know. More compellingly, doesn't this location look familiar? Take another look. I'll give you a second. That's right. It looks identical to the grave shot from that game. The only other game in which we see a sunny shot of a hill is this scene showing the gravestones of missing children. So far the only time we've seen this hill is to symbolize death. Who's to say all of a sudden, a very similar looking hill doesn't do the same thing? Isn't it more likely that Gregory and Freddy perish in that crumbling basement, and now we're seeing them peacefully in the afterlife, thinking they've finally stopped what was all going on and being at peace? Freddy most likely being a stand-in for Michael Afton, or whoever was haunting Freddy at the time, finally being able to rest. Or possibly, if this is actually heaven and Freddy isn't haunted, it could just be a manifestation of Gregory's wishes upon his death. Now, I hear some of you. What about this shot at the end of the Good Vanny scene? Well, frankly, it's not canon, so I don't care. Okay, we know it's not canon though. Look at the teaser. Looking at this DLC teaser, the game is continuing in the same location with the same evil animatronics. Look at Chica. Someone still has to be controlling them, and this shot kind of shows otherwise. So if this ending happened, the DLC can't happen. Since the DLC is happening, this ending can't happen. So we'll assume this hill shot isn't canon, while this hill shot is. Now for one more reason, let's turn to the DLC teaser that Steel Wool dropped that I just mentioned. Look at the top monitors. At a first glance, this just looks like security footage of Gregory, but take a look at this one. In what situation would security cameras have an up-close mugshot of a child with static in the background? This honestly looks like, well, that Gregory has haunted the place. If Gregory died unsure whether or not he actually killed Burntrap, it would lead one to assume that he'd haunt the nearest tech to do it. We see this a lot. When someone isn't satisfied in this franchise, they haunt whatever technology is next to them. This could also explain why the Help Me is displayed on the monitor. What if, in their escape, Gregory and Freddy are crushed under the collapse, but Gregory's spirit, full of unrest, traveled into the nearby technology and possessed it? Almost like Glitchtrap. This could honestly be really cool and compelling in the DLC, because what if we're playing as this mysterious girl that some people are calling Olivia, but frankly I have no idea why. I think it's just a rumor that got spread around, trying to solve the real life issues with the Pizzaplex, while working with the spirit Gregory who's haunted the technology, trying to take down Glitchtrap from within, much like we do with Cassidy. I don't like calling her Cassidy, but the files call her Cassidy. I'm just gonna call her the Princess Quest Girl. The Princess Quest Girl does with Glitchtrap in the Good Vanny ending, which isn't canon now. Maybe, just maybe, Help Me isn't a cry to be saved. What if he's asking for assistance? Help me end this once and for all. Or maybe I'm reading way too far into this. I honestly don't know. At this point, it's hard to tell. But if we are to assume Gregory is alive at the end of Security Breach, what's this DLC gonna be? Well, if you're really wondering, this video might help you out with that. In the meantime, shout out to the best patron, Emberisk, and until next time, as always, stay toasty.